Now, look, you've been pretty ineffective in the polls at scratching him. He's a very charming guy. We had him up here. He charmed everybody. Everybody's like, you know, the most... Bomber, Bradbury, my producer, who's about as far left as you could possibly get. Oh, he's a nice guy. You know, so how do you get... You're not going to be able to do what you did with Don Brash, with the hollow man, boogeymen hiding in the closet.
Well, don't forget, Key was actually bound up in the hollow man business.
I know, but nobody's going to...
He's not got clean hands on that.
But Don Brash you can paint to look like that. A puppet, because he moves like one.
His real weak point is this slippering and sliding around on policy issues.
Too slippery.
You ask him what's the National Party position, it keeps changing day by day. I mean, we've been through a period recently where one day we had Mr. Key saying, oh, national tax cuts will start 1 April 2010, and we might think about 2009. Within about 4 days, it was 1 April 2009. Now, had he not thought that through, the stuff around Auckland Airport, all of that shows his inability to be clear about policy. Now, you can't keep getting away with that and saying, well, I'm a novice, you know, because unfortunately, come the end of the year...
He is getting away with it. He's highest in the polls of Prime Minister.
If he's elected, the old plate comes off the little car straight away.
Yeah, but the trouble is...
He's in charge of the government limo, he's got to be able to drive it.
But you've got to stop him from being elected. If he gets elected, it all goes to hell.
And how we stop him being elected is a number of things. I mean, firstly, we don't stop being the government. We carry on being the government, we carry on doing the things that governments do. You've seen all kinds of announcements rolling out over recent weeks, major policy announcements, the fast-forward thing for long-term research in the primary sector industries, for example. The second thing we have to do is just keep reminding people of the good things we've done. You know, Labor's done these good things. Thirdly, that they might be at risk. And then fourthly, the most important thing that we have got to keep reminding ourselves is we have to make sure that we are the party for the future. We're telling people about what we're going to do, not just what we have done.
Surely you have a new weapon in your arsenal, though, because John Key may be slippery, as you point, but that also allows him to slip out of your labelling him as a far right in waiting. But how happy were you when Sir Roger Douglas arrived back on the scene?
Well, I mean, you heard the sort of crypt creaking and out came the ghost, and suddenly back to life. And the extraordinary thing about that was, which I just loved because it was so Roger in the 1980s, it wasn't just that Roger suddenly said, here I am back, I want to be an MP, immediately I want to be in cabinet, and then announced what the program was for the government. I mean, there's nobody else going to be involved. I mean, as soon as Roger's on the stage, everybody else is just in the audience, and when the applause card is held up, you clap.
You feel a little sorry for Rodney, don't you? He's kind of like, I've got Roger Douglas, Roger!
Yeah.
Roger!
Well, here's Rodney, you know, lost all that weight, spent his time learning how to dance, and now he's told, you're the one who goes backwards now, sunshine. I'm the guy who dances forwards. and that's Roger. You know, I mean, that's what Roger's like. It's a package, and you can't take the bit you like, the bit you don't. You get the whole lot.
My producer described Roger as back from his stasis chamber, fueled by the tears of solo mothers, and now resurrected, who wants a cabinet position with flat tax sacrifices sucked in virgin blood. He's that polarising, isn't he?
He's that polarising, and somebody who can describe all the other political parties in New Zealand as hard left on health and education, so National and New Zealand First, United Future, and so on, they're all hard left parties. Well, if they're hard left, and you suspect he thinks that about some of the people in ACT as well, the centre is defined as less than 1% of the population, which is a pretty funny view about what the political centre is.
But we're now also, look, because we've got Stephen Franks joining National in Wellington Central, who makes the entire Chicago School of Economics look like Greenpeace.
Franks is a hard-lining right wing. I mean, Franks is in there with Roger.
So is this going to allow you, as the government, to say, look, a vote for National is going to get you Roger Douglas, Stephen Franks, and, you know, we're going to sell everything?
Because here we've got this nice, bland, friendly face in the front with John Key, but behind that you've got all these other people. And even Berlington says very clearly, look, John Key doesn't write the policy. I write the policy and the rest write the policy. He's just there to sell it. So this is a bit of a rerun of what people tried to do with David Long in the 1980s. You don't have a role in policy, David. You just sell the policy. Well, David finally said, well, stuff this. You know, I'm actually very bright. I'm a very intelligent man. I'm the leader of this party. I'm elected Prime Minister. You're not going to tell me what the policy is, which is what the great split in the Labor government was about in the late 1980s. Those who said, absolutely, you're right, David. Roger doesn't decide the entire policy, and we will just yes men and yes women at that point.
Okay, modest tax cuts aside, we're running out of time. How are you going to deal with housing? Because it's not just the poor being squeezed now, it's now middle-class New Zealanders, and national tax cuts are going to start looking pretty attractive to those people.
But those tax cuts would only go a short way towards filling up the mortgage gap for many, many people. And if they lead to further interest rate rises, if they're too big, so the Reserve Bank says, hang on a minute, there's too much demand, we're going to have to put the interest rates up further, you just get completely stuffed again if you're a person.
Why didn't you act on capital gains tax or windfall tax to slow the property speculation? Because surely that would have lessened the acuteness of this property bubble.
Personally, I don't support an across-the-board capital gains tax. I don't think it would actually work. I think in a modern economy it would be a negative impact on economic growth. But even if I did believe in it, there's never the numbers in Parliament to get it through. So there's nobody even worrying about it. I think there are other things which are important in that whole monetary policy area which continue to need to be talked about over the coming years. Well, on housing, what we've got to do is deal with some of the costs in housing. If we can get the cost down a bit, if the price of houses stabilise for a period of time, and we can govern in a way that starts to see interest rates coming back, that affordability argument changes quite quickly. 10% increase in real incomes, stabilisation of house prices, a couple of percent or so drop in interest rates, and the cost of servicing a mortgage relative to incomes goes down by about a quarter or a third.
Final question. Was it a bad idea to dump the Serious Fraud Office right as these financial companies start falling over with such incredibly complex deals? Even the experts and people selling them don't understand it.
We're not dumping it. We're merging it into a bigger serious fraud.
You're merging it into the police. They can't even get a 111 call within an hour.
Merging into a serious organisation and serious crime and organised crime agency within the police, which will pick up the people and the approach in the Serious Fraud Office. And
come on, it takes them 4 years to investigate Rob Pope.
We're making announcements very soon around the kinds of powers that agency will have, and I'm satisfied as the Minister in charge of the Serious Fraud Office that the new agency will have to ensure that we can get into that serious financial crime aspect, because they do need strong powers. They're very clever people.
Are they going to have a different number to 111 to get through? Because otherwise they're just not even going to get through.
Basically not 111 numbers for serious fraud. It's a whole different ball game.
I know, just like they've got a better service. All right. One last thing. We've run out of time. We're creeping into world music. Sorry, Brian. But I do just want to ask you one thing. You used zero interest student loans last time to win the students over. What are you going to give them this year? Because their expectations are high. Are we going to dump student fees?
I'm not sure they are. It's a very interesting thing is that when we signed up people that started this year, orientation, the universities, etc., we got a very large number of students signing up to the Labor Party. We were watching what everybody else was doing. And except Iraq was handing out party pills at the same time and calling it party membership, we were getting as many people as all the other parties put together. So I think there is still very strong support for Labor amongst the student population. There'll be some movements in the budget, but I very much doubt there'll be any big rabbits in the
Not going to cut those fees or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Can't find that
I don't think so. No, I mean, if we're having significant tax cuts in the budget, you're talking large sums of money at that point, and that squeezes out a lot of other options.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Cullen. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on Let's Be Frank.
Good to see you.
Next week we have Lord High Mayor John Banks, so you'll want to watch that.